He didn't slam the door. He didn't even look back. He just picked up his suitcase, muttered something about needing space, and walked out into the grayness of a Sunday morning that felt like it had been holding its breath for weeks. I sat in the kitchen, staring at my mug like it might still warm my hands if I held it long enough. It didn't. The tea had gone cold hours ago. The silence came first. It settled in like dust, quiet, soft, impossible to clean. At first, it was a relief. No footsteps overhead. No drawers slamming. No clipped tones or empty questions. But relief has a short shelf life. By the end of the second week, I stopped turning on the television. The sound felt like a lie. We had bought this house 5 years ago. Big windows. A wraparound porch I always imagined would be perfect for late-night talks and morning coffees. But the porch stayed empty, and the mugs were always his and hers, never ours. He left for a work trip 3 months ago and came back different. Or maybe he was always different, and I just finally stopped squinting to pretend it looked like love. He started sleeping in the guest room. Then he stopped sleeping here at all. Then he said it. I think we need a break. Not, I'm sorry. Not, let's try. Just that. Like love was a shift he could clock out of. I stayed. Not because I believed he'd come back, but because I didn't know where else I'd even want to be. The house was mine now, technically. But it didn't feel like it. Every light switch still remembered the way he flipped it. Every drawer had his scent lingering in the wood. I stopped opening the closet. His shirts still hung there like ghosts too proud to leave. Then there was Caleb. He was supposed to stay for 2 weeks. My husband's nephew, 24. A photography student between apartments and bad decisions. Just until I figure things out, he'd said that first night, shifting awkwardly in the hallway, holding a duffel bag like it might explode if he let go. I hadn't seen him in years, not since he was a lanky teenager with too much gel in his hair and a skateboard under his arm. Now he stood in front of me taller, broader, quieter. The gel was gone. So was the boyishness. His voice was low when he thanked me for letting him stay. His smile was shy but full, and his eyes didn't ask for anything. They just noticed. The first few days were simple, polite. He kept to the guest room, helped carry in groceries, made decent coffee. He noticed the dripping faucet before I did and fixed it without asking. Didn't want it keeping you up, he said. I hadn't told him I wasn't sleeping. We passed like shadows in shared spaces. Kitchen, hallway, porch. One night he was out late, and when I heard the front door open, my heart jumped. I told myself it was just the noise. It wasn't. He started making dinner some nights, nothing fancy. Pasta, stir fry, tacos from a recipe on his phone. We ate together. Talked in slow, quiet pieces. I learned he hated olives, loved stormy weather, used to watch his dad photograph weddings and funerals, said both had the same kind of sadness in people's eyes. I like in-betweens, he told me one night. Moments that don't know what they are yet. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded and looked away. Because something inside me did know. I was becoming a moment that didn't know what it was yet. One evening, I came downstairs in an old robe. I hadn't meant anything by it. It was soft and warm and mine. But when I caught him looking just a flicker too long, I felt it. Not shame. Awareness. He turned away. So did I. But something hung in the air after that. Like a breath neither of us had fully exhaled. The next morning, I found a note on the counter. Nothing big. Just 4 words scribbled on a scrap of paper near the fruit bowl. You looked peaceful. Finally, it wasn't signed. It didn't need to be. That night, I stared at my bedroom door for over an hour. I used to stand here waiting for my husband to come home. Now, I stood there listening to Caleb's soft footsteps in the room down the hall. And I didn't know which feeling scared me more, the guilt for what I was starting to feel, or the fact that I didn't feel guilty at all. The days folded into each other, one long, quiet stretch of coffee cups, unread books, and rooms that never lost their chill. I had started leaving the kitchen light on at night, not because I needed it, but because the house looked less abandoned that way. Caleb didn't leave. He didn't mention when he was going to. And I didn't ask. He started taking his shoes off by the front door like he lived there. He folded laundry without being told. He brought in the mail and left it stacked neatly on the hall table. My name was the only one on the envelopes now. Somehow, that felt heavier than if he'd said something. We settled into a rhythm that wasn't quite domestic and wasn't quite distant. Like two people stranded on an island who knew better than to touch, but sometimes forgot. It began with the smallest things. A touch on my back as he moved past me in the kitchen. A lingering glance over the rim of a coffee mug. Once, he handed me a blanket while I watched a film alone and our fingers brushed. I pulled away too fast, and his eyes dropped like he'd done something wrong. He hadn't. Not yet. I stopped wearing the robe. But I started choosing my sweaters more carefully. Not to seduce. Not even to signal. Just because I wanted to feel visible again. One morning, I found a sticky note on the fridge. No name. Just, "You look rested. It suits you." I didn't know if it was him. I didn't need to. I kept it tucked in my planner, pretending I'd throw it away later. That weekend, I was repotting a dying fern on the back patio. Caleb knelt beside me with a quiet ease that made it feel like he'd always been there. "Plants die when they're root-bound," he said. "No space left to grow." I looked at him. Dirt on his palms. Sunlight in his hair. He wasn't talking about the plant. I didn't answer. He stayed until the pot was full. Later that night, I found his sketchbook open on the coffee table. A pencil drawing of my hands. Just my hands wrinkled, still, one holding a teacup. I stared at it like it was a confession. The next few days were sharper, brighter, as if my skin had turned into something electric. Every time he walked into the room, I felt it. Then came the night I couldn't sleep. Rain pattered against the window like it was trying to tell me something. I came down to the kitchen, barefoot, wrapped in an old cardigan. The kettle was slow to boil. Caleb was already there, seated at the table in a hoodie and sweatpants, reading by the light of the stove. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. I nodded, poured water, sat across from him. We didn't talk for a long time. Then he said, softly, "You used to laugh more. Before." I didn't ask how he knew. I just looked at him. He wasn't looking at me, not directly. His gaze was somewhere near the middle distance, like if he looked right at me, it would break something. "Do you miss him?" he asked. The question caught me off guard. I didn't know if he meant my husband or myself. "Sometimes," I answered. Then, "But sometimes I think I just miss not feeling alone." He nodded slowly. Loneliness feels like a sound no one else hears. I wanted to reach for his hand. I didn't. Another note showed up a few days later. This one tucked in my book. "You deserve to be looked at like your art." My hand shook reading it. By the time we had our first real moment, the tension was already a third person in the house. We couldn't escape it. I was watching a movie, something slow and quiet. He walked in, looked at the screen, then at me. "You like sad stories," he said. "They feel honest," I replied. He sat beside me. Not too close, but not far enough. Halfway through the film, I reached for the remote. So did he. Our hands touched. Neither of us moved. Then he whispered, "I know this isn't right." "I know," I said. But I didn't pull away. He looked at me, really looked. "But you make me want to be wrong." Silence. The air was thick. My pulse was loud. I think I nodded. Or maybe I didn't move at all. I honestly don't remember who leaned in first. Our lips didn't meet that night. But they nearly did. And nearly was everything. We walked away from each other like strangers afterward. He didn't sleep that night. I heard him pacing upstairs. The next day, he brought me coffee. No notes. Just a look I couldn't hold for more than 2 seconds. By now, I had memorized the pattern of his footsteps. The way he breathed when he stood behind me. The slight shift in air pressure when he came too close. One evening, while I was washing dishes, he stepped beside me. We stood silently. Then his hand, slow, deliberate, reached out and turned off the faucet. "You're shaking," he said. I was. I hadn't noticed. He touched my wrist. Just a brush, but my whole body reacted like he'd shouted, "Why are you doing this?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He just stepped closer. Not touching. Not yet. But his breath was on my neck. And I closed my eyes. The kiss didn't happen that night either. But it would. God help me, I knew it would. It happened on a Tuesday. That's the thing no one tells you about betrayal. It's never dramatic. It doesn't come with thunder or violins. It comes in the middle of an ordinary week, while the sink is still full of last night's dishes and the neighbor's dog won't stop barking. The world stays mundane. Only you break. He had just gotten out of the shower. Damp hair. A white shirt clung to his chest, still wet in places, jeans unbuttoned, careless. I was folding laundry in the living room, watching a documentary I wasn't paying attention to. Everything was normal. Everything was ordinary. Until it wasn't. Then he said my name. Softly. Once. I looked up. And the look in his eyes, it wasn't innocent. It wasn't confused or curious anymore. It was clear. Intentional. I didn't stop him when he stepped closer. Didn't flinch when his hand brushed mine under the pretense of helping with the towels. Didn't move when he pushed the basket aside. My breath hitched. My hands trembled, but not from fear. His mouth found mine. There was no buildup, no hesitancy, just release. And I didn't stop it. It felt like turning the page of a book we'd both left unread for too long. I moaned into his mouth. His hands moved like they knew their way. Too easily, too much. I found myself reaching for something that felt steady. We stayed in that moment, suspended in something that didn't need words. We didn't speak. Not then. The couch, the floor, the walls bore witness. And when it was over, when we lay there tangled and trembling and wrecked, I couldn't breathe. But not from panic. From the sudden absence of longing. He traced lazy circles on my thigh, lips grazing my collarbone like punctuation marks. I stared at the ceiling. This was a mistake, I whispered. He didn't argue. He just said, I know, but neither of us moved. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept touching the places he'd kissed, as if they held a different kind of truth. Something darker. Something sacred. In the morning, I washed the sheets. He made coffee. Black, the way I like it. And he looked at me like we shared a secret. Because we did. We shared too many now. It didn't stop there. Once the line was crossed, there was no line at all. There was only need. A look over dinner. A brush of fingers when passing the butter. His hand on the small of my back when my husband called, and I pretended not to hear the phone. I started living for the stolen moments. The silent ones. The ones where we didn't say a word, but everything inside us screamed. He wrote me notes. I've never wanted anything this badly. If this is wrong, why does it feel like home? I kept them in a locked box under my bed, next to our wedding album. Irony. Some days I hated myself. Others, I felt more alive than I had in years. When my husband came back from his business trips, I played the role perfectly. Dinner ready. Hair done. Smile stitched across my face like a scar. He never noticed. But I noticed everything. How he looked past me. How he kissed my cheek like I was a sister. How he never asked what I needed. And Caleb, he noticed too. He saw every crack. Every ache. Every time I stood too long by the window. Every sigh I didn't mean to let out. And he filled the silence. With glances. With poems. His attention made me feel real in a way I hadn't in years. We became something else entirely. A storm beneath the surface. Then it happened. The moment I knew it couldn't continue. I found a photo. Of us. Taken when we didn't know we were being watched. I was in the kitchen, laughing at something he'd whispered. He stood close behind me, too close. His gaze on me, not casual. The kind of look you can't fake. It had been printed. Not digital. left on the back steps. A message. Someone knew. I felt my chest cave in. I confronted him that night. Did you take this? No. Did you leave it? No. Then who? He looked afraid. Not of being caught, but of losing me. I'll leave, he said. If that's what you want. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. But by morning, he was gone. Weeks passed. The silence was louder than ever. The house cold again. The warmth, the tension, the danger vanished. And in its place, a numb ache. I went through the motions. Grocery store, laundry, PDA meetings, dinners with friends where I nodded but didn't hear a word. But at night, I replayed everything. His hands, his breath, the way he once said, "You make me feel like I matter." And I hated how much I missed being the reason someone felt alive. Then came the letter. Handwritten. No return address. I won't ask for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. But you should know I never used you. I never lied. And if I had the choice again, I'd still choose you. Every time. I read it 100 times. Folded it. Tucked it under my pillow. He never came back. Not really. I heard he moved to another city. Got a job. Started a life. And me, I stayed. Because someone had to. The neighbors still wave. My husband still talks about work. Our bedroom is quiet. But some nights, when I walk barefoot into the kitchen for a glass of water, I catch my reflection in the oven door. And I don't recognize the woman staring back. She's older now. Softer. Hollowed out from secrets she'll never tell. But sometimes, just sometimes, I swear I still feel it. The echo of that Tuesday. The way he said my name. The way my silence exposed everything I was trying to hide. And in those moments, I don't cry. I just whisper into the stillness. We were never supposed to happen. But we did. And the house remembers. Every floorboard. Every wall. Every secret. Because I stayed in it. But only one of us really lived there.